Next up, it's time for a quick quiz on strings. We've covered a lot so far around strings, working with quotes, single and double quotes, talking about indices, different methods. So there are a few challenges here, but they follow the same format as the other quizzes. So I'll show you a little question. I'd like for you to try and evaluate it without typing the code. Pause if needed. So here's the first one. What is the value of age after this code runs? And then here's the next one. What does this evaluate to? So no variable, just what does this evaluate to? If you were to run this in your console, what would you get back? The next one, what does this evaluate to? Same idea, no variable, but if you were to copy and paste this into your console, which I hope you don't do, what would you get back? And another one, what is the value of the song variable after this code runs? So after both lines are done, if you typed song into the console, what value would it hold? Next, what is the value of the cleaned input variable? There are two variables here. I'm interested in what the value of the second one would hold, or what does it hold after these lines run? Yet another one, what is the value of the index variable here? So we have two variables. What is the value of index after this code runs? And one more, what is the value of index in this scenario? Almost there, we have two more. Here's this one. What is the value of index? Same name, but it's not related to the first one. What is the value inside that variable when these lines are done? And then the very last one, slightly longer, what does this evaluate to? So no variables, but if you were to run this line in your console, what would you see? All right, so if you need to, pause on any of those questions. I highly recommend you take these, I don't want to say you take them seriously, depending on your skill level. These might be easy, these might be challenging, but take your time, make sure you can get through these, and let's talk about the answers. All right, so this very first one. When we take two strings and we add them together, it is called concatenation, and we end up with a new string where those two strings have been shoved together. So age, if I can spell it, not on message error, age ends up as 54. Okay, this one, we have the string pecan pie or pecan pie, and we're looking for index 7. So what does that give us? Well, I. And the reason I chose this string is that I wanted to make sure that you understand it's not just letters, spaces, and any character in a string counts. We start at 0, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is I. Another similar question here, what does this evaluate to? This one is slightly different because there is no index of 3 in the string pup. The highest index is 2. The length is 3, 1, 2, 3, but indexes start at 0, so the highest index is 2, so we get undefined. Next up, what is the value of song? So this one is, it's kind of tricky, I guess, because we are uppercasing song with two uppercase, but we're not actually storing the result anywhere. We're not saving it to the song variable. So song is actually unchanged. We have let song equals London calling, and then afterwards we're uppercasing it. So we do get this string returned to us, but song is unaltered. The song remains the same. Top-notch Led Zeppelin reference there. Okay, next up, what is the value of cleaned input? So we have our string user input set to todd@gmail.com, capitalized Todd, there's space at the beginning, and we are trimming it first, so the space at the beginning will go away. Then we are lowercasing the result of that trim. So lowercasing it means everything will be lowercased, so we'll have lowercase todd@gmail.com instead of cleaned input. So if we test it out, if I run it, take a look at cleaned input, that's what we get. User input is unchanged. Next up, what is the value of index here? So we have a variable called park set to Yellowstone, the string, and then we have a variable called index, which is the result of calling index of stone. So the word stone does occur inside of park, but it's not an exact match. Case does matter, and I used an uppercase S for stone versus in the park variable, the stone or the S in stone is lowercased. So what does that mean? We'll get index of -1. If we just test it out here, we look at index, It is -1, which is what index of returns when it doesn't find that value. Here's another index of example. Yell is a variable. We set it to go away. 2 exclamation points. What is the value of index, where index is a variable set to the result of yell.indexOf exclamation point. What does index of return when we pass in exclamation point? There are 2 exclamation points. I wanted to make sure you understand we only get the first matching index, which is going to be this character here, and that has an index of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We can verify that here, or not. I used the variable index twice. I'm just going to refresh the page and recall that line. And now if we look at index, we get 7. And then we've got this last one. What does this evaluate to? Slightly trickier. We have garbage. It's all caps, so I guess it's garbage dot slice 2. So when we slice with one number, one index, we go from that index to the end of the string. So index of 2 is 0, 1, 2. So we end up with arbage with the exclamation point, that's substring. Then we replace the B with an empty string. Now this is actually kind of hard to see here. I didn't realize when I blew it up as the image here, it looks like a space. So that's my fault. I'll have to add a note. Anyway, it is an empty string, but if you treated it as a space, as long as you understand how replace works, that's all good. So what we'd end up with here, if we run it, we have garbage, we slice, so we end up with arbage, and then we replace the B with nothing, an empty string, which gives us rage. So we go from garbage to arbage, and then that goes to rage with the exclamation point. So if you treated it as a space, we would end up with rage like this. Either one is totally valid. I apologize if that was confusing. Now we've made it through the quiz. We have a little bit more to talk about with strings, and then we're going to move on to undefined and null. And then we're really going to open things up and get into conditional logic and adding real logic and decision making into our code.